Whoa, so this is exciting. What's going on behind me? Don't get excited. It's just my room. The same place I film from every single day. Speaking of excited, I am so pumped to share with you guys today's video topic, which is essentially how to see the future from the present. Now, I'm not talking magic 8 balls or any of that stuff. No, those things are about as useless as the astrology section of Cosmos. But I don't believe in guessing games, right? I believe in information and science. So I have 2 stories I want to share with you guys. So I'm gonna tear these stories apart, throw some theories in there, and we will get into the nitty-gritty of what I mean by we can see the future in the present. This topic's so exciting. Let's get started. First story I have is actually back from high school. Now, I remember I took this IT class. I was so excited about it because I thought like, oh cool, we'll be learning all about computers and how to program and fix them. Not what happened. It actually ended up being like a whole semester class on how to write PowerPoints, which, side note, is actually super important. Yeah, don't discount the power of a good PowerPoint. But yeah, no, there was actually one project in that class I really loved, and it was essentially find a product that hasn't been created yet that engineers and designers think one day will. And I essentially found this product that was like an elongated phone. And it was bendy in such a way that when you slapped it to your wrist, it would slap on just like one of those slap-on 90s wrist bracelets. I think the official term is slap bracelet. Oh yes, that seems quite reasonable. Yeah. Mind you, okay, so Apple Watch came out in 2015. So by using the internet and by using information and resources, I essentially figured out 7 to 8 years before that there would one day be a product on the market that is a phone on your wrist. Okay, now keep that story in mind. Next story, flash forward a few years, now I'm on my last semester at college. During that time, I took this class called The Road to the White House, which was taught by this professor named Carlos Diaz, who now incidentally happens to work for the Trump administration, which I have a lot of feelings about. I know Katy Perry ain't afraid to catch feels, but I did and I'm still afraid. No, but anyway, so this professor was actually pretty darn great. And one thing he did better than most other professors at Harvard is he predicted with quite some accuracy very early on that Trump would be the Republican nominee, or at least voted as the Republican nominee. And the way he did it, shocker, is he used information available to him. Essentially what that means is he went through every district, every area in the United States, he knew their voting laws, and he knew their likelihood to vote for Trump or another Republican nominee, and he added up all the points. Sounds simple stupid, but sometimes simple stupid works, because we knew in that government class a month before the elections for the Republican nominee ever took place that Trump was likely to win. That's just one of the extra cool benefits of education, is that you learn things before the rest of the mainstream ever hears about them. There's actually this super awesome quote by this American-Canadian writer named William Gibson that actually articulates perfectly what I'm trying to say, and it goes, "The future has arrived. It's just not evenly distributed yet." The future has arrived. It's just not evenly distributed yet. Think about it. It's this idea that there are a few people who just have the knowledge, have the insight, have been working on these problems, these designs, and they know what's good, but the rest of the world hasn't caught on yet. Now, why is that? Why is it that the mainstream is so late to the uptake? You know, so late to the game. So 2000 and late. Why? Why? Why, Fergie? Why? Well, Fergie might not be able to tell you, but the diffusion of innovation theory just might. Now, what is the diffusion of innovation theory other than a mouthful? Essentially, it's this idea by this guy named Everett Rogers that there exists a bell curve of people, and it goes from the people who know ideas first to the people who find out about ideas last, right? And so essentially you start out with your first 2.5% of people. These are your innovators. These are the people coming up with ideas, the products, the everything that everyone else will know about way later on. And then you have your next 13.5% of people. These are your early adopters. right? They saw what the innovators are doing, they adopted it. Then you have your early majority. Now you're getting into the mainstream public. To give you an idea, the early majority would be like you and me when we started using Facebook, right? We weren't some of the first users, but we were pretty early on. And then later down the bell curve, you get to the late majority. This would be like our parents when they started using Facebook, right? So not as early to the game, but still part of the mainstream. And then finally, at the very end of this bell curve, we get to the laggards. They're called laggards because they lag behind, right? This would be like your, 56-year-old uncle who lives off the grid and still believes that Facebook is just an alternative name for the word yearbook. It's not, Uncle Tony. Please come back to civilization. But that's essentially this whole idea, that there are people at the front of the graph who will know things before people at the end of the graph. Obviously, there have been different reshapings of this group that say there's sometimes a gap between the innovators and early adopters and the rest of the world. Sometimes for whatever reason, products that are created on this side never get to the rest of the market, but oftentimes they do. And, as you read and research about it a little bit more, you find out that the innovators and early adopters actually tend to be more educated than the rest of the group. I mean, guys, this is the closest you can come to knowing the future in the present. And this concludes another episode of Learning is Nifty. Okay, now I'm talking to you guys. If you guys have a topic that you are particularly interested in and would like to know what happens before the rest of everyone else does, list it down below. I'd be curious to know where your thoughts are headed. Other than that, I'm yes or no, and I'm headed to the kitchen to eat some food. Get you on the flip side, home nuggets. Peace. No.